Um, and really just all about energy. I wanted to make the comment that, of course, we're really pleased because Essex County Council have been awarded a Community Energy Award from Community Energy England as the most supportive local authority, which I think is really good considering all of the effort that I know that officers and the expertise that is going into this, because it's gaining momentum, and I'm really pleased about that. And I'm sure that I'm going to have to start because Maddie will say that I've got to keep to the agenda item. But what I just do quickly want to say is let's use this event to learn from each other and about sharing successes also, and plan for a future where this energy is going to be sustainable, affordable, and most importantly, community led. And that's what we're here for today, to hear more about that. And of course, at the end, as I've already said, you're going to have the opportunity to ask the questions you want at all of these presentations. So now I'm going to go to the agenda, and I'm going to pass on to the officers from Essex County Council's Energy and Low Carbon team. And let me just introduce them, please. Our County Council's dedicated Energy and Low Carbon team does work tirelessly to reduce carbon emissions and produce and promote energy efficiency across Essex. And their efforts are crucial in our journey towards a sustainable future. And Omar, who's going to be speaking, is from the team here today to talk to you about Community Essex, how we're supporting the groups, and what support is available for district councils as well. So Omar, over to you, please, and your talk on Essex County Council Energy and Low Carbon team.
Thank you very much, Peter. Yes, my name is Omar Al-Amin. I am Energy and Low Carbon Project Development Officer here at Essex County Council. Yeah, delighted to have a kind of introduction and overview of community energy and of community energy in Essex. Next slide, please. So yeah, what is community energy? Community energy puts people at the heart of the energy system. It's about people and communities taking democratic control over their energy future. Community energy brings people together to manage, generate, own and save energy in their communities, and more broadly, to educate local residents and business owners on how to participate in the energy transition and the low carbon transition. Community energy groups are key to facilitating the behaviour change required for our new energy systems. Community energy can refer to a number of different forms of projects, activities and business models. I think most commonly it's understood to be community-owned generation. So that's when an energy co-op will be formed to own and generate electricity, usually via solar panels or wind turbines. There's also examples of community-owned hydropower too, but community energy has grown much more than that in recent years. Community energy groups are involved in energy awareness and education, energy efficiency and retrofit services, low carbon transport, as well as providing resident and community engagement and support of wider energy planning. Next slide, please. So why do we need community energy? We know that residents across the country and in Essex are concerned about climate change. As you can see there, 86% of Essex residents have said that they are extremely, very, or somewhat worried about climate change. However, people can feel confused about what action to take, and often people feel disconnected from the energy system. It's so large, it's so technical. People often don't feel as though they have any stake or power, pun intended there, with kind of within the system and how to kind of make change or kind of participate within it. And community participation is key for successful energy transition, as noted by numerous national and global reports, as you can see here. The Emission Zero report by the Right Honourable Chris Skidmore MP stated that a place-based, locally led approach is one of the 6 key pillars for action on net zero. And the Climate Change Committee has said that it will not be possible to get close to meeting a net zero target without engaging with people, and that people need to be brought into the decision-making process and have a sense of ownership of the net zero project. Community energy can translate that concern into positive action, and it provides the opportunity for people to participate in local solutions. Next slide, please. Yeah, and as we transition away from the old energy system to the new energy system, community energy is well placed to respond to the challenges and opportunities presented by that transition. The existing systems and approaches are failing to deliver best outcomes for large sections of our population and unable to deliver the scale and speed of change that we need. This image that you can see on the slide is taken from UK Power Networks, and it kind of describes what the old world is or was, and what the new world is likely to be. And yeah, the energy system of the future is decentralized, flexible, resilient, renewable, and democratic. And a locally led, place-based approach to net zero delivery will not just deliver a kind of better tailored and more supported transition, it can also deliver greater economic and social benefits as well. Community energy organisations are already at the forefront of energy system innovation, facilitating behaviour change and accelerating the decentralisation of the energy system. Next slide, please. So given this context and challenge of bringing the public and communities along for the ride, what should the role of local authorities be? So local authorities can create an enabling environment that maximises the impact of community energy. Local authorities have the scale, credibility, and administrative skills to support the drive, innovation, and opportunities exhibited by community energy organisations. There is a positive correlation between local authority support and the development of successful community energy organisations and projects. So if we want to achieve the full value of community energy, local authorities must be supportive partners. And what is the added value of community energy groups for local authorities? We've kind of touched on it already, but community energy groups provide direct value in installing additional renewable generation capacity and decarbonising our buildings and homes. But they also have the potential to play a supportive role in wider net zero and climate goals. And community energy groups can be delivery partners and play a pivotal role in behaviour change as well. And the long-term benefits for Essex County Council include reducing the dependency on public funds and running costs of community buildings, as well as empowering communities to help themselves and take an active role in the energy transition. Next slide, please. So yeah, what has our journey been? So firstly, we took on board the recommendations that the public need to play a key role in the transition to net zero. And this is why we have included community participation in our council objectives, primarily in our Everyone's Essex strategy, as well as our net zero strategy. Supporting community energy not only has a focus on net zero or climate goals, it cuts across a number of objectives and departments, not just within our energy and low carbon team. It impacts public health, it strengthens communities, it impacts sustainable transport, and it also impacts economic growth. So the energy and low carbon team takes kind of responsibility and is trying to drive our support for community energy, but it is very much a cross-departmental, cross-council ambition, and kind of the benefits as well is much more than just net zero benefits. Next slide, please. So yeah, kind of our journey so far. We started in March 2020, before my time, but in Essex, they were starting from a kind of a low base. There was I think there were no community energy groups within the county in March 2020. And with our delivery partners, Community Energy South, who you will hear from after me, we created a bespoke mentoring programme to support groups and build their capacity. And by March 2022, we had established 4 community energy organisations. Today, as mentioned earlier, there's more than 20, I think 21, and counting, but they're at various stages of development. And that's one of our ambitions from here, is to help these groups grow and scale. In 2023, the Tollsbury Climate Partnership successfully raised the first community share offer in Essex, and successfully raising £250,000 in community investment. That is for solar panels at a local school in Tollsbury that is part of a wider decarbonisation project for that school. So far, these groups have assisted with 1,600 residents with energy advice and delivered 100 home visits. That's actually an outdated number, so those numbers are probably higher today. And yes, as Peter mentioned, we're very proud that in November 2023, Essex County Council was awarded the Supportive Local Authority Award at the Community Energy England Awards. So yeah, we're very proud of that. Next slide, please. So yeah, a little bit more about our approach. In collaboration with Community Energy South, we have focused on raising awareness of community energy and building local action. And through the Pathways programme, we've offered mentoring and startup support. We've developed the enabling environment for local action on energy advice and retrofit through a project called Community Power that involves training energy champions across Essex. And these are paid roles that support local people to provide their neighbours with information and advice on how to improve the energy efficiency of their homes, and that connects with other retrofit delivery services as well. And then finally, we have been engaging communities to better understand how we can support them to shape and benefit the low carbon infrastructure that could be delivered in their local area. That's through an approach called community-led energy planning. Next slide, please. So yeah, this is kind of where we are now. I think it's important to note that many groups are specifically community energy groups. However, we're also working with some groups that are more holistic climate action groups that deliver services and advice kind of beyond community energy, be it biodiversity or other climate issues. But we have been working with them to support them on how they could explore and deliver community energy projects. Many are in rural communities, and we're working hard to expand community energy into our levelling up areas. And our ambition is to have at least one community energy group in every district within Essex. Next slide, please. So yes, now that we have established a growing community energy network in Essex, we want to focus on supporting growth and scale, and that is by addressing barriers to community energy and taking advantage of new opportunities. I only have 10 minutes. I think I can take the full hour to discuss barriers to community energy and solutions to those. So I'm going to keep it really brief. But yeah, that's kind of addressing barriers and making sure that as a region and our groups, we're well positioned to take advantage of new opportunities is how we hope to achieve growth and scale. And that's kind of translated into 3 strategic themes: project development, supporting groups to identify new sites and opportunities, and working across Essex County Council to support with planning, negotiation, legal issues, procurement, whatever the case may be. And really that is the foundations for growth for community energy groups that allows them to deliver all of the other valuable community-led and locally based services that community energy groups do. Strategic partnerships, we want to continue to foster an enabling environment within Essex. So that's kind of internally within Essex County Council, it's with our district and parish council colleagues, it's with other public bodies, central government partners and other key stakeholders such as Community Energy South and other kind of sector specific organisations, and then kind of continuing our capacity building, ensuring groups are able to grow and have the appropriate skill sets within their teams, either through raising awareness of community energy and bringing those skill sets in, or upskilling existing team members to make sure that they have the necessary team in place to deliver on their ambitions. Next slide, please. Yeah, and talking of
Omar, could I just interact and say, could you hurry up, please? Because I'm concerned about the time going by, and we need to get all the speakers in. Thank you.
Sure. This is. I'll leave this as my last slide, just to kind of leave you with that there is a kind of opportunity that's emerging with a new policy landscape, and climate action has a prominent role within central government policy. There's Great British Energy, and within that a local power plan that will work to scale up community energy projects. The local power plan also has some funding, up to 400 million a year in low interest loans, and 600 million pounds a year in grants for local authorities, specifically for community and locally based energy projects. And then there's a national wealth fund, a warm homes plan, there's planning reform, as well as a stated ambition to have a rooftop solar panel revolution. And yeah, I will leave it there. So yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Omar. That's really interesting about everything that you say, and it just shows what's involved in community energy and the projects going forward. I'd like to quickly now return back to the agenda, and I just quickly would like to introduce Nicola and Danny from Community Energy South, which is an organisation that's instrumental in supporting energy projects across the south of England, and they're helping to generate renewable energy, and it's commendable because there's so much interest in this now, and it's gaining. And the community energy groups are vital partners, and especially with ambitions that we have in decarbonising our housing stock. So Nicola and Danny, over to you and for your talk on the highlights and the work of Community Energy South, which I'm sure will be really interesting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm Nicola Davidson, one of the mentors at Community Energy South. I look after Essex as my primary role, building community energy groups. I'm also a volunteer director of a community energy group outside of Essex in my spare time. Next slide, please. In a nutshell, as a non-profit organisation, we are commissioned by the County Council to help create projects, groups and projects, and the approach we bring stimulates the growth of the energy sector through jobs, the sales area, and opportunities for energy savings. And we enable communities to build their own capacity to achieve carbon emission reductions in their areas. Doing this by supporting them individually, as a group, and as a network of groups through free mentoring, training, tools, and resources which are designed to meet their own needs. On top of our Pathways programme, which provides that mentoring, we bring in new projects funded by central government, and those then in turn provide local jobs. Next slide, please. Here's a lovely slide from Community Energy England that we always like to talk to briefly. It categorises the ambition and the sort of the breadth of community energy, ranging from democratic control of energy projects in places to more livable homes that are warmer and more energy efficient, and involving people so that the transition to decentralised energy is more just. Next slide, please. We talk about community energy in a similar way to Omar in terms of the powering up, which is the generation, powering down, which is energy saving, and energy planning, which is working together to develop plans. Starting with Powering up, this is where communities will form a group and develop their own energy generation project. That might be heat networks, it might be renewable, so rooftop solar, and that is funded through community finance. In terms of the powering down, we tend to train up community energy champions who are found through the community energy groups, and they will be trained to a level which means they can provide local impartial advice, often highly trusted because those people come from the neighbourhoods which are receiving the advice. And that advice leading to action enables improved community resilience as we walk towards climate change and higher energy bills. Then there's energy planning. Omar mentioned the local area energy planning, which is where places such as a district council level will look at creating a local energy decarbonisation plan with all the stakeholders that exist in those places. So community energy groups have a real voice there to change local landscapes and improve the opportunities for people to participate in that long-term planning. Next slide, please. I've got a couple of slides here which bring you examples of community energy groups. Since 2000, the year 2000, we have grown 4 official community benefit societies within the 20 that Omar mentioned. This one is the Tollsbury Group over in Malden. Now, they have done the fantastic project that he mentioned, which raised £250,000 in share offer funding. Now, we supported them with that, and it is totally decarbonising a school. And that is combined with £400,000 of external funding from the government to provide a huge ground source heat pump. So it's energy in terms of heat, it's the solar projects for rooftop solar and decarbonising the school. And we're happy to share some details of how that came about. But it's a great example. And the Tollsbury Climate Partnership was an overall group that in the local place that was interested in all strands of sustainability, from food, waste, sustainable transport. But there were some people within that group who particularly wanted to create something community energy focused, which is how we came about with Tollsbury Community Energy. So it's a great example of communities doing things that for themselves. Next slide, please. This is the next best example of the community energy work we've created. We built the Saffron Walden Community Energy Group. Well, the group built them themselves, but with our advice. And they are providing village-wide retrofit advice. Now, it's really important for this group to reach both hard-to-treat properties and hard-to-reach residents. So a lot of people in a place might not find it very easy to understand the grant opportunities for retrofit or the policy landscape, but the community group, because they're local and they know what local people need and they convene at local events, they can communicate the change and opportunities. Next slide, please. So how can you get involved? I know there's a really mixed audience here today, so I've broken this slide up into commercial organisations, parish councils, individuals and existing community groups. Starting with commercial organisations, you might like to get involved if you perhaps run a company or you're employed by an organisation who may be looking to meet their net zero targets through community energy. Consider talking to your employer about letting the rooftop or land that you might own as a business to be used for community owned renewable energy. Even if you've put solar panels on, say, a quarter of a roof, it might be that you've got the ideal roof space to lend the 75% that's remaining to a community energy group. But we look at projects on a case-by-case basis. Commercial organisations might like to nominate a staff member to volunteer as a director of a community energy group or as an ordinary volunteer. Now, parish councils might consider buying out small portions of existing solar farms or solar farms that are on the horizon. That can lend several opportunities as the regulatory barriers are removed over the next few months to years. But there's lots of opportunity there. Parish councils may also offer rooftops or land for small-scale renewables directly. And it could be that we could create local energy systems which share savings with local households on a sort of time of use tariff. Individuals, you could volunteer your time as a director, like I do in my spare time. And this is a role similar to a trustee position in a charity, because community energy groups typically are cooperatives they're community businesses which have their assets locked for community benefit. Individuals may also like to consider part-time roles in delivering home energy advice, and we can connect people to roles that we have available in our organisation to deliver in Essex, or with the overall Essex County Council team. And my colleague Danny is going to take the second half of this presentation to tell you more about that. And community groups, they might like to link with us on energy saving advice provision to address fuel poverty. We are working closely with all the Essex teams that are involved in this to ensure this is seamless for the resident. Community groups might also be able to help us identify existing mid-size solar opportunities or existing solar arrays that we might adapt for energy sharing clubs. The opportunities are really wide and far-ranging. And then lastly, I'd like you all to try and help publicise the opportunities we bring about. Next slide, please. And that's over to Danny, my colleague. Thank you.
Thanks, Nicola. Hi, everyone. My name is Danny Olsen. I'm the head of Community Power at Community Energy South. Although I was recently of Hampshire County Council, which finished as a runner-up in the Community Energy Supporting Award that Omar and Peter mentioned. So well done, Essex. But now here I am in this role as head of Community Power. And I think what a lot of you are probably thinking is actually what impact can you make if you get involved in community energy? And I've created this slide as a circle, though I would say it's a lot messier than that in reality, but the reality would have been very hard to read if I tried to depict that on the slide. It is something of a cycle, though, and a virtuous cycle at that, because if we start kind of on the top left around helping vulnerable people, I think that's something that has been very, very clear to everyone over the last couple of years, is that there are more and more people in fuel poverty. Energy prices have made life difficult for a number of people, and with things changing, there are people at risk of being left behind. And community energy groups are really well placed to know who those people are in their community and help them out with energy advice and possibly retrofit needs as well. And then so that leads on to not only vulnerable people, but anyone in the community retrofitting their homes. And this can start from really simple things like draft excluders, turning their boiler heating down, radiator reflectors, all the really, really simple things. But many people are still not aware of those small adjustments they can make to reduce their bills and feel more comfortable in their homes. But what this does, as you work on these things as a community energy group, you learn about the community that you're serving. You gather information and data on their homes, and this allows you to understand your local needs. And this feeds, this is, again, a virtuous cycle, because it informs local tradespeople and contractors about the work that is required in your area and allows them to plan ahead. And this data can help you understand exactly what retrofit needs you're going to come across across the whole housing stock of a village or a town, or maybe a cluster of villages like the Saffron Walden example that Nicola showed earlier. And this then feeds into building a community focused plan. And this is something we're doing in Essex as part of the Community Power Project, which I'll mention in a moment. We are looking to develop what we're calling local area energy plans light. They don't include the transport element of a local area energy plan, but otherwise very much look at decarbonising domestic housing and then layering the opportunity for generating community-owned renewables as well. So only after you've really engaged with people and understood their needs, their homes, can you build that plan. And nobody else is better placed to do that than people of the community working in the community. The county council obviously has aspirations to do this as well, but without the buy-in and the time and the efforts of local people volunteering their time and engaging with residents, that won't happen. So that's kind of that first half of it. You then get to what Nicola was talking about earlier around building community-owned energy assets. If you understand the energy demands of your area, you can match that with the supply. You know, it's difficult to build a solar farm on the outskirts of your village if you don't know what your energy demand for that village is, for example. And then being community benefit society, any of those profits made from generation or any of the savings made from energy efficiency are felt locally. And there's local tradespeople who are involved, and you really do reap those benefits. And there's many examples of profits from community energy going back to support the most vulnerable in that community. So you see how I was trying to get that into a cycle. It's a lot less smooth than that in reality, but I think there's a lot of different impacts that you can make as an individual and as a community energy group. Next slide, please. So the Community Power project in Essex is an 18-month program supported by the County Council, and it's very much about the kind of the first half of that cycle. It's about supporting people with energy advice on their households. We have a software platform that allows people to explore their own address and understand their current energy needs and update that if there's any errors or whatever, and then plan to retrofit and increase the energy efficiency of their home. At the same time, we're learning about that community, and we're gathering information to put that into a decarbonisation plan. So we're working on providing Essex, a couple of areas in Essex, with that decarbonisation plan. And this obviously feeds into what the County Council were talking about earlier in regards to their climate change targets for the whole region. As well as that, it informs the skills and economy and opportunities for microgeneration, as well as local general system development. If you would like to get involved in that side of community energy, please do reach out to us. There are 2 more slides, which I don't need to go through. There's just some links to our website, and Nicola and my email addresses on the end there. So please do get in touch. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Danny. That's really interesting, of course. And I'll just remind everybody that, of course, all of the slides from this webinar will be forwarded to all attendees as well for further information, of course. Okay, quickly moving on because time is moving fast. Our last one is Christopher Blomley for the Community Energy Colchester. Who's our last speaker today, is going to talk to us about his experience in community energy. So Christopher, if you could keep your talk tightly to a maximum of 10 minutes to allow for Q&A at the end, please. Over to you.
You hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now, Christopher.
All right, thank you. I just wanted to do a mic check. Good. Okay, so yes, my name is Christopher, and I'm the project director with Community Energy Colchester. I think I'm probably a testament to the fact that, yes, it works, and the journey has just been fantastic. I think one of the key factors in making that journey work has been understanding that partnership is key. So from our position, we'd like to thank Essex Climate Commission and Community Energy South for all the support that we've received to actually make this work on the ground. And I think that is absolutely vital. It really is motivating us as individuals to come together as a community and to put our actions into place. So starting with our motivation of what we actually wanted to do, what we were able to do, and how we could access that information and those informations. It's been an interesting journey. There's been some challenges. The challenge has been really working our way through the information that's offered by possibly central government sometimes. So it's filtered information, things like looking at the ideas around air source heat pumps and how it's possible to have alternatives to the air source heat pumps. And as a community energy group, what we've been really interested in doing is actually working out how we can support people who are in the community who generally can't afford air source heat pumps. So looking at different ways to help those people, particularly on low income, so that they can begin to get involved in mitigation of climate change and understanding how they can play their part, and it not necessarily be about what they can afford to do, but it's how we can help them to do simple things like some basic retrofitting. So as we've developed our journey, we've become very interested in retrofitting and supporting people in their households. We can do a 2-hour visit in a household within our area. Our main areas are Colchester and Tendring. And so we can go in and we can look at radiator reflectors, we can look at secondary glazing, we can look at blocking up all the gaps around windows and doors. We can look at how to make the best use of what we have right now of our housing stock and what we inherit. And some of those are quite challenging, but we work very hard to work with those communities who can't afford to have all these solar on the roof or a wind farm, or to buy into those kinds of projects. But they can play their part, and that's part of the funding that we've been a recipient of UK Power Networks, working with Community Energy South. And again, I have to stress, partnership is key. Those partnerships that we have in Essex are bringing about change. And one of the exciting challenges that we've got in behaviour change is also looking at the retrofitting opportunities. So I'm just going to round off. We've built another working partnership with ACL Essex, who are helping us look at retrofitting advice, retrofitting coordinators, retrofitting advisors, and getting them working. Now, interestingly, we've got now 3 people actually employed, but we've got plans to employ a lot more people to help us as a community mitigate climate change. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Christopher. That was interesting, the fact that you mentioned about partnerships, and it's all about enabling and sharing experiences as well. Really valuable stuff. Thank you. Okay, now I think there's the opportunity to open up this webinar, importantly, for all of your questions, and I'm sure there's going to be a few. So I don't know, Maddie, if you've got any in the chat already to start with.
Yes, so the first one, which I think probably targeted at Omar, or either Nicola or Danny might be able to answer. And it's from Jan, and it says, might community-owned biodigesters be supported projects?
I can answer that one if you like, Maddie.
Yeah.
Yes, it's entirely feasible that anaerobic generation can be a community-owned successful project. It would depend on the site and that the revenue was generated, because the way community energy projects work, the powering up projects, is that they would need to sell energy to a user. So an anaerobic digester would sell the heat from that plant to some local users, like a business or households. So it depends on the site and the scale. But yes, at the moment, the Community Energy Fund is funding several feasibility studies to look into this, because it is potentially viable. But I'm happy to start a conversation with you offline if that's useful.
Great, thanks, Nicola. We've got a second question from Lindsay Allen that says, is there any way we can ensure all new builds have solar panels? Very frustrating seeing fields with solar panels and large development with no solar. Who would like to tackle this one? Maybe Peter?
Yes, I think it's a really good question, because I think a lot of people find it very frustrating that actually the first port of call really would be for all houses that are being built and can, providing they're not so much in the listed properties, could and maybe would be appropriate to have solar panels on, because the frustration is that building regulations haven't changed to allow that. But I'm hoping that, well, I think probably we all hope that this will be changed by government. And of course, some district and borough local authorities could potentially change this through supplementary planning plans as well. But I think essentially main government should support this change, and it's something that will be really useful. And of course, through the Essex Design Guide that we've updated recently on this, we really support this and advocate this in a big way. I don't know if anybody else would like to comment on it as well.
Yeah, I guess from a very community energy focus point of view, how could a community energy group or the community energy sector play a role in this particular issue? I think it's in the theme of community-led energy planning, and if you can have a open dialogue and good communication between communities and local people on the ground, and the more of the top-down approach, the planners and designers and things like that, and you can start to co-produce, co-design design strategies that can then be shared with developers, and they need to then focus their end development, ensuring that they have stuck to the local neighbourhood plan or the local design framework. So I think how can community energy organisations support that particular theme? Yeah, I think it's making sure that there are avenues and channels for their voices to be heard in the wider planning discussion.
Yeah, and Adi, just before you go on, I'd like to add that a lot of people think that industrial roofs should be used, but of course, a lot of industrial roofs actually are not strong enough to bear the weight or the wind loading caused by solar panels, and that's part of the problem. So there could be a design change there that could use that, because I think community energy could also help local industry as well to decarbonize, and I think there's something that we don't talk about very much, but we could. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd just like to highlight that in the chat, Josephine and Adam have put some more information about that question and a couple of links if you'd like to see some more information on that as well. So our next question from Christopher Webb is, how much of the energy market do you expect this approach to deliver?
I can have a first go.
Yep, sounds great. Thanks, Nicola.
Yeah, I mean, distributed energy, there's going to be more and more demand for this locally, but there are many barriers to community energy, including low grid connection opportunities due to out-of-date off-gen regulation and district network operator legacy investment issues. So the more we can seek to tackle this, tackle the regulation, the more we will create an easier landscape for community energy to step in and provide what's needed locally. There are many opportunities we could rise to if those barriers were removed. Happy to send you some details of the barriers and what Essex County Council and Community Energy South responded to the government about when they had the call for evidence to community energy barriers.
Yeah,
thanks Nicola. Danny, would you like to jump in?
Yeah, I agree with what Nicola said. I would also add a couple of things. I think the opportunity for decentralized energy systems is it makes a lot of sense to the network operators as well, because the alternative is them spending billions of pounds on upgrading the grid to take on huge infrastructure projects. So there's an opportunity there to receive that money locally and save them money in the long run. So I think there's an economic incentive for the network operators to encourage decentralized and community energy. I would say, however, that a majority of our energy is ultimately still going to come from massive projects, offshore wind, etc., particularly in the UK, because ultimately it's more economical. However, the role of community energy isn't just about generation. I think it's really about engaging people, helping them to understand the role we all can play in a just and fair transition, and making sure that your community is part of that, and it will feed this kind of virtuous cycle of acceptance and appetite for renewable energy, and it will overcome a lot of those barriers that Nicola mentioned just by engaging people and bringing them along and not letting it just happen to people as a passive resident.
Thanks, Danny. And Omar?
Yeah, thank you. I fully agree with everything that Nicola and Danny have just said, but maybe to put some kind of numbers on this, I don't know what these numbers relate to in terms of what the share of the overall energy market will be, but in the most recent State of the Sector report, and if anybody here knows, and I'm wrong, please do correct me. I think it's in total community energy owned energy generation projects. I think it's under 400 megawatts, and the new local power plant targets, which is one of the new policies of central government, is by 2030 to deliver up to 8 gigawatts of, and that's an additional 8 gigawatts of community-owned, locally based renewable energy generation. So yeah, just that's a kind of, I'm not exactly sure what that 8 gigawatts is in terms of a share of the total energy market, but it's a huge ramp up in ambition for community energy from where we currently are to where the central government would like the sector to be in 2030.
Okay, thank you, Omar. Maddie, have you got the next question, please?
Yes, so from Florence Chan, she asks, how do we get the retrofit advice and visit as mentioned earlier?
I don't know who wants to answer that one.
Yes, I can speak first on that.
Yeah,
so the
thank you,
Community
Daniel.
Power project, which is delivering energy advice in Essex at the moment, is working primarily. This is just the way the funding worked out. Is delivered currently in 3 districts in Essex, so Uttlesford, Tendring, and Malden. However, we also have the UK Power Networks funded project that Chris spoke about, which is delivering across Essex. Both of these have opportunities to deliver energy advice with energy champions. I would say that the best way to get hold of that energy advice, if you're looking to get the advice, is to engage with your local community energy group. However, if you'd like to get involved in delivering the advice as a champion, then please get in touch with me, and I can link you up with the local champion coordinator or group. Nicola, would you add anything to that?
No, I think you've covered it, Danny. Thank you.
Okay,
Great,
thank you.
thank you.
Okay, go on, Maddie. Next question.
So I was going to say, next question is, do you have an example of a community mini grid? Could you discuss barriers such as funding and grid connection, please?
Yeah, I can have a first go at this. There are lots of examples I could delve into of mini grid opportunities, but at the moment they are normally single sites providing energy to a single user because of the barriers at the moment in place through Ofgem. So the government is potentially seeking to remove those barriers. So we will see more opportunities emerging. In terms of funding, a lot of the barriers have been because projects that would support multiple people through private wires, synthetic connections, and so on would be complicated. So that would need technical expertise in quite some detail to be available to a project scenario. Now, the Department Southeast Net Zero Hub has made funding available called the Community Energy Fund, and that has provided feasibility study funding for up to £40,000 to look at this sort of thing. So funding is available, it's becoming more available, which is great. But what we've got to look at primarily for community energy groups at the moment is a sub-megawatt generation project. At the moment, the Saffron Walden Community Energy Group has secured some of that community energy fund for feasibility study, and they're looking at a village-wide project to provide an air source heat network for homes. So you could consider that as a grid mini connection. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Nicola. We've had a question again from Christopher. I think this is about the solar panels on new build housing question that we had, asking, are you engaging with housing associations such as Eastlight to advocate this approach?
I think we'd love to engage with housing associations, but again, they would have to be the purchaser, the single purchaser of the energy generated. It would be very complex at the moment to provide the energy to multiple users. So yeah, it's very much worth a conversation. We're always up for exploring things like this.
Great, thank you. We've had a couple of comments, and then next question is, if community energy work with individuals too, how much of an impact do you think the changes to winter fuel payments announced this afternoon will have? Could this be a long-term benefit?
Oh, I don't know. I
Sure.
can't answer that. Sorry, Maddie. I was going to say I haven't heard about the winter fuel payments announced this afternoon. I'm sure others have. So no. Okay, it looks like nobody's heard about it. So
No problem. We can probably follow that up
Yeah,
at a
exactly.
later date.
Yeah, I can follow that up quickly. I haven't read the news, so I haven't looked into this particular example. But an example of how community energy can support with fuel costs could be, imagine you've got a solar array, say a quarter of a megawatt array on a commercial building that is just going to that commercial building. We could set up an energy local club, which is an additional community benefit sort of club, which provides householders and businesses that share the same primary substation. I'm getting complicated here, I know. If they share the same primary substation and the energy provider and the energy users were to form a club, they could benefit from lower cost energy at time of use. So while the sun's shining, residents could be encouraged to switch their dishwashers on and therefore get lower cost energy at that moment. So that is something we're really keen to try and bring to Essex. It's a great opportunity. 4 of our groups have already had some training on this. We just need to find the right site to bring this sort of scenario on. But it could be a really good opportunity to supplement those winter fuel payments and difficulties that people in certain places have.
Yeah, Nicola, and it's worth mentioning about the what people can actually achieve with those very simple and fairly cheap timing plugs too, when they know what rates of electricity they're on, to help themselves to be more energy efficient in their homes and help conserve energy, but also to help themselves from a financial point of view too.
Yeah, that's right. And I know that Essex County Council has done a great deal of work to encourage residents to take up the home upgrade grant, which is coming to a close this year. But residents under a certain income threshold who are off the gas network, who might have high energy bills because they're not able to use gas. Many residents across Essex are eligible for this grant. But as with a lot of grants, they're complicated, they're hard to navigate. So this is why community energy groups can be great resources to help people understand and take hold of grants. And Christopher Blomley, who spoke earlier, is doing tremendous work in the Colchester area and tendering, I think, to try and support residents to take that grant. So grants are available for many residents.
Yeah, thank you, Nicola. And I noticed that the time is moving on rapidly. I think we better cease questions there, Maddie. And I'd like to thank all of our speakers this afternoon. I think it's been really interesting. I think just from the amount of questions that have gone into the chat and the answers, there's a lot of passion here. There's an awful lot of need to share knowledge on this as well, because a lot of people are very interested. But as I mentioned in my introduction, considering a few years ago, there was hardly any talk about community energy, and we've now got in Essex over 21 groups, and it's growing fast. It just shows the amount of interest, but also the amount of expertise and the knowledge gained in this whole process as well. And I think that's really important. And this is about enabling and sharing that information as well. And Nicola, I liked your powering up, powered down, and energy planning. And this is really a lot of it's about. And of course, it's up to everybody to get involved as well in this process, because the more people that get involved, the more projects and community energy projects can come forward. And of course, this is about skills too, gaining that knowledge, that skill, and sharing it more. And also, I think it's going to potentially help with local energy jobs as well. So I think there's huge advances being made in community energy. And again, thank you to our speakers. I found all of the subjects really fascinating, as I'm sure all of those that attended did. And thank you all to those that attended as well for your time. I hope you found it interesting. I'd like to thank all the officers too for the time and effort in putting this together, because it's never easy to put a very smooth webinar together like this, and it takes time and effort. So thank you all to the officers. And And I think there's one more slide, isn't there, Maddie, with the QR code. We will be putting out a feedback form, and we'd really appreciate you spending a couple of minutes doing that feedback form. And also, we at Essex, we've refreshed all of our advice packs as well, which cover business schools. And Maddie's got it on screen now. These are all available online as well, with the QR code to download. And they would be, I think, helpful to you if you have interest in, especially some of the business advice packs, and where to go. And all the links are very live as well. And the other thing that may be of interest to you is our Carbon Cutting Essex app, which also covers businesses as well. And if you have the time not only to download it, but actually look into it, we change the themes every month. One month, for instance, we support businesses. Another month, we support recycling in a big way. So if you haven't, do download it and participate. And there's the opportunity there. The more you participate, you can change points for value, and those values can even come back and help community energy projects as well. So there's lots to do. So just to wrap up, my takeaway from this is it's been really great. And thank you all so much for everything that has been done. And of course, as Maddie just flicked past there, there's also our climate newsletter, which you can sign up to as well. And again, there's a QR code. But of course, don't forget, we will be forwarding all of these slides to you so you can pick up this information at a convenient time to you. But thank you very much, everybody involved. It's been a really interesting webinar, and I hope you will have a good evening. Thank you. Goodbye.